Hi there, Sandra here from createinspain. Today I am making a three-dimensional pop-up house to go inside a card. Now I did a prototype, I've adjusted some things that I didn't like about it, and now I have printed out some of the paper or card that I needed and cut pieces out. Now I'm showing you this because for those of you without print and cut functions, you might find this quite useful. If you just do blocks of a colour, or in this case a pattern that you find, and you print it out using whatever normal print software that you use, whether it's Shortcuts a lot or whether it's just what comes with your printer, whatever it is, you can print out blocks of pattern as well as blocks of colour. Just make them ever so slightly bigger. It's almost a printer's bleed, but in this particular case, I've not gone for a bleed, I've just done blocks of colour. And that has allowed me to cut out these designs here without using a print to cut function. Because what you do is you print off your card, you have the design that I give you, you position it on your machine and cut as if you had done a print and cut. It's just another way around things. Okay, so that's why I wanted to show you that bit there. So this is the main part of the house, and I've got the roof. Now the roof is a little unusual. It has 3 crease lines in it. They are dashed lines, so you don't have to do anything else with them. So it's folded in half, and then these 2 pieces come out as wings. And you actually need to put some glue in that centre fold, so that it's folded onto there, like that. Also for this roof, I have a little decor strip, and this just goes over the top, either side, to the fold line and gets glued on as well. So here's the roof now that I've finished it, and I actually put a little bit of gloss varnish on this black bit to give it a bit of a shine. I've got a load of pieces here cut out, and I've coloured them in with alcohol markers. The reason for this, I couldn't be bothered to put different colour papers on my mat and do it that way. So I just took the relevant coloured markers and just went ahead and coloured all the bits. So these are going to go behind the window frames. If you have problems with your dexterity, what you want to do is to put these onto your sticky cutting mat. If you're using a mat to cut these out in the first place, you'll have one. That will act as an extra pair of hands, and then you simply put the glue onto the frame and then pop it onto there. So I've stuck all my bits together. I may or may not have the correct number of windows because some might have inadvertently ended up in the bin. Sometimes that just happens. It's very useful having this particular print because it is going to make placing of the windows that much easier. The other thing I want to mention is that I used a zig pen to glue these things on, simply because it makes it relatively simple. They do a finer version of this pen as well, which is like a ballpoint, and that's really good. I just happened to have this one out, so I used it. So now we have what looks like a very smart townhouse. It did make it so much easier to put these windows in place, having a brick design on there. You can always put a pen in your ScanNCut or whatever cutting machine you're using and get it to draw the areas for the windows. Now we come to this funny piece here. It looks a bit weird. There's a fold line on either side of it, and there's a fold line at the top. Now one of these goes this way and one goes that way. Very important that, but you'll see why in a moment. So this is how it's constructed. When this goes together, it's going to go down the fold, the centre fold of the card, like that. The centre fold is going to go through those points. So what we want to do, or it might go through those 2 points depending on which way I put it, but what we want to do is to make sure that the roof can fold flat as well as the building, because this will fold flat very easily. But in order to put a roof on, you can't put this on here, put it on there, have it fixed, and then expect it to fold flat diagonally. It doesn't work that way. So this is how it's done. Right, we're on the inside here, and we have this nice funny piece of card here. And you're probably thinking, what on earth do we do? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is to just trim down the corners at the top. Now I'm doing that because I forgot to trim them down in the file. So if I don't remember to trim them down in the file, that's what you do. Okay, just take the corners off. And now I want to line up this top edge here with the apex of the actual house. If you think you're going to be tempted to skew it, just make sure that the base line follows along the base of the house, and then you can't go too far wrong. So line it up with the top point, line it up with the base and make sure that runs flat, and then put that back into position if it's shifted. There we go. There we go. So that is going to go there. Now we want this side to go on like that. So that piece gets put on. So what we're going to do is to flatten it down, put glue on this tab here, and then just stick it down. It always helps if it's actually stuck before you start moving things around. And then that flap there folds over like that, and we just put glue onto this one here. Okay. If you ever find yourself with a little too much glue, just get a ball tool and just go on the edge like that, and you'll be able to get rid of any excess glue. And then you have the three-dimensional aspect of it. It's looking pretty smart, even without the roof. So, how do we put the roof on? Well, this is, again, really, really easy. So you fold it flat with one of these things stuck out. This one here goes to the centre of the roof, and that's going to be stuck there. That will go down there. Then you open up the other side, and then that's it. Because I was making a video and I was trying to do it in a bit too much of a hurry, I ended up having to take my house off of my base card and take the roof off and put it back on again. Now the reason for that is because the glue wasn't quite dry, and in the process of opening and closing and all that sort of stuff, it shifted. So the moral of the tale is take your time over this because it will pay dividends in the end. But you're not having to make a video on it, and I was. So I simply replaced the tabs that hold the roof on, and I've put some fresh tabs, just pieces of card, on the base in order to replace them. They don't necessarily have to be in exactly the same spot or even the same size or anything like that, as long as they are on the opposing corners. In the course of this, I also managed to wreck my base, so I decided to do a little adjusting on that as well. I've added some extra colour to it, taken away the path because I didn't like it too much, and I have added in there just a little print line, and this is where my house is going to go. This was done in ScanNCut slot, and I know that that line there is 45 degrees to the centre line. Therefore, I shouldn't make any mistakes. Oh, famous last words. So this is going to be flattened down, and it needs to be flattened that way because that's the way that I need my door to go. So again, this bit goes into the centre. So this is the corner, the bottom corner of the building goes to the centre of the fold. And then I have to make sure that this piece here gets rotated to where the line is. Actually, what I want to do is extend that line out very slightly. There we go, that's better. So I can actually see where my corner is and where everything else should go. So that's going to go there, and that needs to go along that line there. So theoretically, this tab gets to be glued down there. Like that. This tab comes down, this is the top tab, and then that one gets glue put on it, need to trim just a tiny bit off of that tag because it's getting in the corner. So trim a bit off of there. This folds down over here. And now I am going to leave it for a while to dry with a weight on it. I learnt my lesson. Be patient. Not something I'm overly good at, but in this case it's very important not to open it before it dries. Right, the moment of truth. Ta-da! There we go. It is exactly as it is supposed to be. So I can take my eraser and rub out that extra bit of line there because I don't want it. So I decided on something different. I decided to do a patio. Now I've done this with a creamy coloured vinyl. Now you could cut it out of card, but I thought it would be less bulky in vinyl, and I've got the vinyl, so I thought, why not use it? The bits that I want to stay stuck will stick down, and the contact paper will come off without ruining my card. It should do because it's not overly sticky and it is a temporary one. Don't try doing that with a permanent one, believe me, you'll regret it. There is another product I think you can use if you happen to have it. Press and seal, that's it. That's supposed to do the job. I haven't tried it for that. I've used it for other things, I haven't tried it for that. So, save my piece of contact paper since it seems to be pretty sticky still. And pops up when it's supposed to. Here is my finished card. Now the front of it is a piece of acetate. I have cut some silver vinyl onto that. And then I bordered it with some plain grey card. The reason for the border is because I didn't quite have enough of the silver foil to get the border out of it in the same sheet, and I decided that was just gonna have to be the way it was. So I'm pretty pleased with the front of it. I like the fact that it's deceptive. You wouldn't think looking at this card that it was anything particularly fancy until you open it. And then we have our house. I have made a picket fence and I've done some little rose cutouts, and I've got a little sold sign here as well. I think that looks pretty good. And the only thing I've noticed is that vinyl seems to be lifting there. It's strange, it was lifting on the other side before and now it's lifting on that side. I stuck the other side down and just put a dab of glue in it. So I will do that with that side while I'm looking at it. Now the fence is pretty easy to put into place and I've included it in the file. And what you have to be aware of, I just partly fold this up, is that when you put it on, your centre point goes into the centre of the card as it did with the house. I added on some tiny little bits of paper, just strips of card on either end, and there's one just there to hold it onto the card itself. And I did this in a thin card, so I actually stuck 2 layers together. Got 2 shortish pieces and stuck them together so that it was long enough, and my card wasn't heavy enough to just do it in the 1 layer, so I did stick 2 together. But when you put it on, you put on one side at whichever angle you want, and as long as you have the centre point in the centre, you're okay. But then when you close it, like you did with the house, when you close it, you have to make sure that it goes the other side of the house. So this is on one side of the house and this is on the other. So when you've closed it together, you put the glue on the tab on the opposite side on the base of it, and you close the card over the top. But make sure it's this side of the house rather than being on that side, because the house itself will get in the way and it'll make it very difficult to do. So that's how you do that bit. Now you might notice if I show you from that side, and if you can see it, But my rose bushes are also double-sided. I figured that if you wanted to look at it from the other angle, you wouldn't want to see the plain back of the card, so they are double-sided. My little for sale sign here, I can show you that. It has a little semicircle as the base, and all I did with this, when I cut it out, I did again 2 layers, and I just used an alcohol marker to colour it in, and I wrote the sold sign and did the red line on the sign as well, just manually. I didn't bother doing it by machine. So there we go, that is my new home card. It folds nice and flat, it's not very bulky at all, so you can post that quite easily. Now the other little tip that I got for you, this card is 300 GSM and it really does not like folding a great deal. And when I folded it, the edge here looked terrible. So what did I do? I got something that you probably have around. I happen to use this one, and I just lightly sanded the bumps away. Be very careful, you do not want to sand it too hard, but just a light sanding made this look so much better. I was looking at it and thinking, I really don't like that edge. It just didn't look very neat. Sanding it made it possible to do the card that way without doing any extra covering of it. So there we go, that's how it goes together, and I'm very pleased with the result. Now I hope you're going to give this a go, because aside from me making this card, it actually takes a certain amount of effort for me to do all the files with the adjustments so that you can actually use them. It would be a really, really nice card for someone who's moving into a new home. Please leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you again soon. Take care now.